everyone. Welcome to the Fresno State webinar for incoming and returning Fresno State students. My name is Patty Wade, and I am Director of Communications here at Fresno State. Before I introduce you to President Castro and some of his colleagues, I wanted to welcome the students and thank you for having already submitted some questions. If you have other questions, you're welcome to do so in the Q&A box. We are not using the chat function for this event, so any questions you may have, go ahead and submit those via the Q&A. And in addition to Dr. Castro and his colleagues, we do have a team of admissions folks, folks from financial aid, housing, and other areas kind of in the background who will do their best to answer questions you may have that are very more specific to your particular circumstances. And so we will start first with Dr. Castro. I do want to mention that this webinar will be taped and we will post it on the new Fresno State website. You may have seen it already. That's fresnostate.edu/fall2020. And this webinar will be posted there on Monday. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to President Castro and his colleagues today. President Joseph I. Castro is originally from Hanford and has been here since 2013. Dr. Carolyn Kuhn is our Dean of Students and Acting Vice President for Student Affairs. We also have with us today Provost Saul Jimenez Sandoval, who is also the Vice President for Academic Affairs. And then there's Debbie A. Stone, who is our Vice President for Administration. So we have 4 cabinet members today. And before we start answering your questions, Dr. Castro, I thought perhaps you could start with some opening comments.
Thank you, Patty. Good afternoon to everybody and welcome to this webinar. I hope you're staying cool wherever you're at. And I know it's a warm day here in Fresno. And I want to offer a special welcome to our newest Bulldogs and any family that are with us today. Well, on May the 12th, as you may know, the entire California State University system announced that nearly all 23 campuses, including Fresno State, would provide courses virtually, except with a few limited exceptions for essential in-person courses. And this decision really reflects public health officials' view that COVID-19 will remain a serious health risk until a vaccine is developed. And given the recent surge in confirmed cases and hospitalizations in our region and the prediction for a second wave in the fall throughout our country, I believe that it is imperative for us to strike a balance between 2 very important goals. First and foremost, we want to ensure a quality educational experience for you, our talented students. And as the future leaders of our region and beyond, educated, resourceful, and talented graduates are needed now more than ever before. Our other very important goal is to do everything that we can to protect the health and well-being of our entire campus community and the family members of our students, faculty, and staff. And I know that many of our households are multi-generational, which means that there may be someone older in your household. There also may be someone who has underlying health conditions. And so we want to be very careful and thoughtful about your health and well-being during this time. I believe that our plan strikes an appropriate balance in trying to uphold our ability to provide a high-quality education to all of you and steady academic progression while also mitigating the risk of infection among our campus community members and their families. And while we remain optimistic for the eventual full repopulation of the campus as early as the spring, our work by the Fall 2020 Planning Task Force will prepare us to transition to full virtual instruction in the event that the pandemic surges in our region later this year. You should have received from me this morning by email information about Fall 2020, including a link to the Fall 2020 website, which has a Q&A section in case you're interested in checking that out. Before my colleagues and I answer your questions, here are a few highlights of our plan that might interest you. First, our plan assumes a daily campus population of approximately 2,200 students, faculty, and staff. That's about 7.5% of the overall campus population as compared to fall 2019. And of that population, there'll be approximately 1,340 students enrolled in 128 in-person courses approved for the fall semester. Our on-campus housing will be open on a single occupancy basis for up to 560 students. The Henry Madden Library will be open in a limited way on the first floor to those students who are enrolled in in-person classes. And library staff will continue to provide virtual support to all students as they are right now during the summer and through the fall. Optional and highly encouraged COVID testing will be available at no charge for our students, faculty, and staff who will be returning to campus for fall 2020. The plan also includes daily health screenings and temperature checks. And for those of you who will be on campus in the fall, it will be each person's responsibility to adhere to all public health protocols to reduce the risk of infection among our campus community members and their families. And this includes using face masks, practicing good hygiene, and maintaining appropriate social distance. And whether you attend classes in person or virtually this fall, you will learn from dedicated and talented Fresno State faculty experts. And with our students' continued efforts, your grades will ultimately earn you a Fresno State degree. And that degree is becoming more and more valuable each and every day as our university rises. This is a great time for students like you to learn and grow and to prepare for success in your chosen field of study. I really admire and appreciate your resilience and the resilience of your family during this consequential time. And I'm so happy that you took a little time to join us today. I've enjoyed interacting with you over the last several weeks. And for those of you who've been here a while, over the last several years, and I look forward to the opportunity to hear from you today and answer questions that I can myself or one of my colleagues will help me to answer them. So I'll stop there and I'll be very happy to hear from you and to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Castro. One of the more popular questions, it appears, by the way, we have about 300 people online so far, so that's wonderful. For the classes that will be taught virtually, will teachers teach these courses via Zoom at their normally scheduled times that students registered for, or will instructors be expected to teach classes like a normal digital online course?
That's a great question. I'm going to ask Provost Jimenez Sandoval to answer that for us today.
Sure, yeah. All classes will be designated in the fall as one of the following four. So online, face-to-face, these are the two that you know already. And then the other two that will be added to these then will be virtual synchronous and virtual asynchronous. This will be forthcoming in the future, in the near future, as professors right now are undergoing training with CFE, the Center for Faculty Excellence, and they are deciding whether they will be synchronous or asynchronous. Regardless of whether they are synchronous or asynchronous though, we are asking all faculty to maintain personal contact with their students by having office hours or having a set amount of time in which students can simply communicate with them and then ask questions, and then the professors can make sure that the students are assimilating the information that is being taught throughout the semester. Thank you.
Thank you, Provost Sandoval. I had a follow-up question because there's quite a few students asking this. How will students be notified? How will they know which of their classes are done in person and those that will be taught virtually?
Go ahead, Provost.
So right now, if you go to the registrar's website, you'll see on the left-hand side at the very top, Fall 2020 classes. If you click on that, you will see all of the classes that are going to be face-to-face. If the class does not show up there, the class is going to be virtual or online. That's one part of it. The other part that you can also see in your student portal, if you go to your student portal, you'll see your class, and then you'll see the class link. If you click on the class link, it'll usually start with, it's a 5-number sort of like thing, right? Like 73313, for example. If you click on that, you'll see then the class being listed, the class details being listed there. Right in the middle of that, you'll see class attributes. These class attributes then, if the class is face-to-face on campus, it'll say the following: class meets face-to-face on campus for fall 2020. So you can see that through your student portal right now, either through that, or you can go to the registrar's webpage as well.
Great, that sounds straightforward enough. I did want to point out to the students that we've launched a new website, and it's the Fall 2020 website. And we have a list of FAQs, frequently asked questions by students. And one of the top questions on there is about how you find out about your classes. So if you go to the FAQs on that website, you will see that question with links to what the provost just described. So thank you for that. The next question has to do with tuition. How would you respond to students who feel that virtual instruction is an inferior service to in-class instruction and thus justifies a lower tuition price?
I understand the question and concern because every dollar matters. In my opinion, whether we're in person or virtual, it really has been determined by this pandemic, and we didn't have any control over the pandemic. But most importantly, we have the same great faculty and great staff teaching and supporting our talented students. Our tuition and fees are the lowest of any public university in all of California. And so we're still a great value, and we're not going to charge fees for things that are related to you being on campus. So if you're going to be coming to campus, you'd have to buy a parking permit, for example. But if you're not, then you're not going to be required to do that. So I promise you that we will do everything we can to ensure high quality education during this semester. We've just invested significantly in professional development. We have over 900 of our faculty who are involved in professional development this summer, giving them some new tips and skills to teach effectively in a virtual format. And same with some of our teaching assistants, they'll be going through that as well. So I promise you that it's going to be a quality educational experience. We learned a lot during the spring, and we're working hard to make sure that we make the appropriate adjustments for the fall to address your needs. And if you need counseling support or other student support, those will be offered on a virtual basis for you. So please take advantage of all those services. They're there for you and for your success.
Thank you, Dr. Castro. One question is very brief, but I think it gets to the point. How will this affect my internship?
That's a great question. And I know, Provost, you're working on this one right now. Maybe you can give them an update on that.
Yeah, we are both, Vice President Ason and I have been working on internships and also service learning. The internships then will be established by protocol that the Chancellor's Office has given to us. We are working under the understanding that the internships will go through if the internship office, or if the internship person, or the internship institution, right? The institution that is providing the internship has the proper protocols for COVID-19 and also has the proper training for that as well. We are finalizing the plans for this, and then we will proceed with providing you with details pretty soon on this. I'm not sure if the Vice President Ason would like to add something to that.
Just want to add that internships will be available. We just want to make sure that we ensure the safety and welfare of our students as they're off campus participating in these internships, but we know they're important and required as part of your degree completion. So that is part of the plan to ensure that those opportunities will be available.
Patty, if I could also mention that our Career Center continues to provide support for our students, and I'd like to ask Dr. Kuhn if she might share a little bit about what they're doing right now to support all of our students.
Sure. The Career Development Center is open virtually, and they are still helping students with resumes and with other skill building, as well as helping with money management and offering workshops to students on career and related issues, and staff are there. They're all still working full-time, and they're there to help you however you need. And their website is active then as well.
Thank you, Dr. Kuhn. I'm going to combine two questions because they are somewhat related. So what will Greek life look like during this time? And will student clubs and organizations be available in an online format?
Well, I know that our student clubs will continue to be active in a virtual way. For some of you who have been watching the news, our Fresno State NAACP chapter has been especially active right now and making positive changes in our community. And we have over 300 clubs here on campus. With respect to the Greek system question, I think I'd like Dr. Kuhn to provide an update on that area.
Sure, be happy to. No, the Greek system will remain active, and in fact, we are moving up the dates for recruitment. It's usually later in September, but given that we're going with the virtual format this time, it's going to take a little bit longer. And so we want, in fairness to being able to meet the needs of all of those organizations and allow the students who want to join and the students who are already members to get the full experience, we're changing that. So all of those things will still be happening, but they'll be done virtually, including the risk management training and all of the introductory kinds of things that we do with our students who are part of our fraternity and sorority life. And our advisors, for those organizations are still very active, as are the staff in the office.
Thank you, Dr. Kuhn. Going back towards not so much tuition, but fees. The question is, will we be charged for on-campus fees, such as the Student Health Center and counseling, or any other fees like USU, etc.?
Thank you for the question. The answer is yes. The Student Health and Counseling Center is open, has been very active in providing services and support. We're adding counseling services over this next year. So I encourage those of you who would like to access those services to do so. And the same with the student union. The programs and support through the student union are continuing in a virtual way. And some of the funding that we use as well for things like the recreation and fitness center go towards the facility. And paying for that that facility. So it will be there when you get back, and we'll be ready to proceed in a new normal when we get through this pandemic.
Thank you. And it appears some of our recent graduates are on the call today.
Great.
Several of them are asking if the graduation ceremony for the class of 2020 will still be held and when.
The answer is absolutely yes. We need to celebrate, and we want to celebrate. It will be as soon as it's safe. Because of the fluidity of the situation, I can't give you a date right now. You know, I would say it's probably more likely to be next May than before that. But we will stay in close touch with you, and we want to celebrate as soon as we can, and as soon as we can do it safely. So stay tuned.
Great, thank you. Oh, and then someone's looking ahead to next spring. I am entering my senior year this coming fall, and my questions are, first, do you think that the spring semester will be in person? And will there be a commencement ceremony for the 2021 graduates?
The answer is I hope so. But this pandemic has its own mind, and we will see how things go. And if we can do it safely in terms of having people back on campus in a, more students and faculty and staff on campus in the spring, we will do that. It'll all depend on the circumstances related to the pandemic. The same is the case with commencement. Right now, we have it planned for next May at Save Mart Center. I'm pretty sure that the date's been booked. So we're going to hope that that's what we'll be able to do. And if there's any change, we'll definitely communicate that to you. So there's a chance that we would combine this last class with the new class of graduates and celebrate together. We'll see how that goes, but I certainly hope that we'll be able to do that. I know everybody's excited about it, and I saw some of the virtual celebrations and they were heartwarming, but there's nothing like doing it together with the family and friends. So we're excited about doing that as soon as we can.
Great, thank you. In the fall 2020 campus plan, there's a section that reads about student assistant positions will be limited to those functional areas required to support in-person courses. So the question is, which areas can we expect to be considered as required to support in-person courses?
That's a great question. I'll pass this to Vice President Stone in a minute, but philosophically, we love having student assistants. We want to have as many as we've had in the past, but because of the circumstances around the pandemic and even some of the budgetary constraints that we face, we're going to have fewer student assistants on campus during this fall. And I would encourage you to, if you are in that situation, I'd encourage you to speak with your supervisor and learn more about that specific example of your office and what those circumstances might be. And I know Vice President Stone, you've been working on this for the whole campus. Is there anything else you'd want to add to that?
I would just like to add, as you mentioned, President Castro, that we value our student assistants and the role they play in helping to support our campus. But we are needing to be mindful of some budgetary restrictions and just the operational need as we are in this primarily virtual environment. However, we are still continuing to employ a number of student assistants in some areas such as technology services, facilities, and various areas in student affairs. Some of our student assistants are able to work remotely, but the challenge has been is just operationally the work is not here right now, and the need for the level of student assistance that we have, traditionally. But we value the role our student assistants play, and we are hoping, as you mentioned, to be back to a normal operation in the spring and be able to bring our student assistants back to campus in a much larger way than we'll able to be in the fall. So we are needing to limit our campus population in the fall, and that's to ensure the safety and welfare of our campus community. It's very difficult, and I'm speaking from someone who was a student assistant here many years ago.
Thank you for that. Some students are interested around the pricing of parking permits, and they are asking if parking permits will be at a discounted price since some of the students won't be going to campus as often as they did last semester.
Vice President Haystone, you want to answer that?
Yes, thank you. We do not have plans right now for a prorated semester parking permit, but what I would recommend is buying a daily permit, which will be much more affordable, especially if you're only going to be here maybe a day or two a week. And that's always an option, to buy a daily permit at the dispenser. So we're trying to do everything we can to make it as efficient and easy as possible. And I will say parking will not be a problem in the fall. Finding a parking space will not be a problem.
Isn't it true, Vice President Haystone, that we have one of the lowest parking fees in the whole state?
We do. We are the second to lowest in the CSU system. And as you mentioned, President Castro, our total mandatory campus fees are actually the lowest in the system. And we've been very diligent and mindful about the level of fees charged to our students, and operationally, and just even the amount of debt that we incur in some of our programs, we're keeping that very low so that we can continue to keep those rates low for our students.
Great, thank you. There is a question from a senior coming in this fall having to do with the availability of classes. So it's two questions. Will I be able to add the classes I need before the first day of school? Apparently they appear closed right now. And since the university is doing mostly virtual, will there be more room for the students to add with no classroom size issues?
Great questions. Provost, would you like to answer those?
Sure. Thank you, President Castro. Currently, we are monitoring all demand on courses across the university. We're opening new sections if these are needed. If you're a graduating senior, the best thing to do is to keep trying. If you are unsuccessful, please contact the Dean of Undergraduate Studies, Dr. Bernadette Muscat. She will be able to help you with these classes that you need to graduate. And then the second part of the question dealt with what, Patty?
Oh, I'm sorry. I lost that question thread with me. Oh, having to do with the notion that since so many classes will be taught online, can more students take the same class since there are no limitations in terms of physical?
Yeah, we are aware that space is not an issue, but there are other issues at stake here, and they deal with labor relations, right? We can't have a class, for example, that is a writing class that is scheduled for 24 students suddenly have 100 students because of the workload issue. So we are trying to strike the balance that is right as far as the demand is concerned, and also as far as the workload is concerned for our faculty as well.
Thank you. Another question has to do with the health of students. What is the university's plan in the event of a student contracting COVID-19?
That's a great question. Vice President Haystone, would you like to answer that?
Yes. Thank you, President Castro. This spring and summer, we have been putting in important protocols and procedures if a member of our campus community tests positive for COVID-19. And there is a protocol of reporting through our student health center, which then triggers information to other areas of the university so that we can respond accordingly with either additional cleaning or disinfecting. All reports go through the student health center and then are reported to the Fresno County Department of Public Health. And then they will notify us about information they may need on contact tracing in the event that they need to interview the student or the employee as to other individuals that they may have come in contact with within a certain period of time. So we have a very prescribed procedure that's been in place and that is working. And we're working very closely with our Fresno County Department of Public Health representatives to be able to assist with the contact tracing. We've had a number of our staff from the Student Health Center and our risk management area who have been trained so that we can provide assistance to the Department of Public Health when requested. But the starting point, if someone does test positive, is they are to report to the Student Health Center, and then they are provided with resources from there.
Thank you. There's a question here from a few students who want to know if they can switch to virtual learning for a class that is actually held in person.
The answer is it depends. We are going to make our very best effort to have a virtual option, but there will be some courses where that will not be possible. And so under those circumstances, I believe, Provost, you could add to this, but I believe we would encourage them to take the course at a later time. And sometimes because of accreditation, we may have to offer the course only in person. So let me ask the Provost if he wants to add to that.
Yeah, thank you, President Castro. That's right. Due to accreditation regulations or due to very specific, discipline-specific needs, some courses will not be available via the virtual modality. We will, though, help the student find other alternatives, either by other classes that the student might need at that time, or finding other ways, to further that student's career. But the president is correct in that our hands are tied as far as some courses that cannot have an alternative that is going to be virtual. So, some courses have to be face-to-face per accreditation and also per very discipline-specific needs.
So for those students who will be having classes on campus, they are asking if they need to get COVID-19 testing, since you had mentioned something about taking their temperature on a daily basis.
Yes, we're going to be conducting baseline testing in August, right before the semester. And I highly, highly encourage all students to get tested at that time. I'm going to do it along with my cabinet, and I'm asking everybody on campus to do the same. I'm not able to require it, but as we've done with other things here at times, I want to inspire it. It's the right thing for each of us and for all of us as a community. So I really encourage you to participate in that baseline testing. You'll be informed by us directly about how to do that. And then there will be an app that will enable you to, from your home or wherever you're at, to determine if you are feeling well enough to come to campus. And then we will have stations here to do temperature checks when you arrive on campus. And I might ask Vice President Astone if she wants to amplify on that in case I missed a detail there.
I know, President Castro, you captured the details, and more information will be forthcoming on the logistics of how we'll be doing the temperature checks when you arrive to campus. But rest assured, we know we will make it a quick and efficient process.
I think the Provost has wants to add to this.
Yeah, just really quick, President Castro. The testing is only for students who have face-to-face teaching on campus.
That's right. Thank you for the clarification. I might say there is testing for other students at Fresno City College, and you can learn about how to do that free of charge. But our baseline testing, as the Provost said, will only be for the folks who are going to be here teaching and learning and working during the fall semester.
Thank you. I think this next question we may have answered before, but it's always worth repeating.
Sure.
Will this plan of being mainly online be implemented throughout fall 2020, or will there be a possibility to switch back to in-person classes in the middle of the semester?
I think that we should all assume that this is our plan for fall 2020, and these will be the in-person courses offered through the whole semester. I don't anticipate any moves from virtual to in-person during the fall just because of the uncertainty around the pandemic. But there's a possibility as we get into the fall, if the pandemic is acting in ways that are too dangerous for us to continue offering courses in person, even with all the safeguards we've put in place, then we do have a plan B where those courses would either move to virtual format or some other special arrangements would be made. But our hope is that we can implement this plan for the fall, that there won't be any changes. And I do believe with the provost leadership and our faculty that we've been able to structure these in-person courses in a way where those most essential in-person hands-on activities will be done toward the earlier part of the semester to the extent that's possible, so that if we do have to go back into a fully virtual format, that hopefully that course can be completed in a successful way. I'd like to ask the provost if he'd want to add to that.
Yeah, that's exactly right, President Castro. At this point, we are not projecting, or we are not planning to go back to face-to-face during the semester. The classes that we've selected have been selected through a very rigorous process of consulting with the faculty, with the chairs, with the deans. And these classes are the ones that are being right now required by either accrediting agencies or by very discipline-specific needs that they be face-to-face. These are the classes for the semester, and these are the classes that will go through with the face-to-face instruction on campus.
Thank you. We actually have a student writing to us from Spain right now, and I'm sure this is on the minds of a lot of international students. She's asking, what is going to happen to the international students coming from abroad if the borders are closed?
That's a great question, and thanks for participating from Spain. I hope you and your family are doing well there. Well, if you are able to return to Fresno, we'd be happy to have you in the community and taking your classes here virtually, or if you have in-person classes, to do those in person. If that's not possible, then we would work with you to make sure that all your courses are offered to you in a virtual format. And as the provost mentioned, there'll be some courses that can't be offered that way. So it will depend on your field of study. And I think if you have any questions or concerns, Provost, would Dean Muscat be the right person for them to contact?
Yeah, it would be Dean Moore.
Moore.
Moore, right? And then specifically the Office of International Studies would be able to help them. Sarah Lamb, Dr.
Sarah Lamb, yeah. Sarah Lamb and Scott Moore, in case you want to check them out in the directory. And if you have any trouble, just let us know. We'll help you find them.
Thank you very much. We all know that the library itself is very near and dear to our students' hearts. And so some are asking for students who are not enrolled in in-person courses, will they have physical access to the library this fall?
Yeah, I think the answer is unfortunately no, because we really have to take great care to mitigate the risks during the fall semester, and we're going to have to maintain social distancing in the library. So there'll just be a section of the first floor library that will be open. And I know that study space is not always, at home, there may not be the appropriate study space. So I definitely understand where you're coming from. And we want to have you back as soon as possible. But for right now, we really have to be careful. And so we will provide the virtual support from the library to all students. And I'm hopeful that that will meet your needs during this fall semester. And then hopefully in the spring, we'll be able to have the library open in a more significant way. You're muted, Patty.
I do that a lot. Thank you. I think the provost answered this previously, but where does it say online if our class is synchronous or asynchronous?
Provost?
Yeah, right now it does not. Right now we are gathering the information from our faculty. Once we have that information, it'll be posted. So that information is forthcoming. What you do see online right now, though, is whether or not your class will be face-to-face on campus. And you'll be able to see that by those steps that I went over with you. If you go to your class, your student portal, look at your class, you click on the class link, which is usually that 5-digit number. And then from there, you'll be able to see the class attributes. And the class attributes will say, class meets face-to-face on campus for fall 2020 if this class is going to be on campus. So that's how you would determine it. Or you could also go to the registrar's website and see the full list of classes that are going to be face-to-face on campus fall 2020.
Thank you. The next question is around the classes this fall, and I know we've seen even questions along these lines on social media. Will the list of virtual classes change? That is, can there be petitions to add more, or is the list final at this point?
The list of virtual classes, Patty?
Yes.
I think that's going to remain as is, right, Provost?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and so vice versa, that applies to in-person as well, correct?
Yeah, we don't anticipate any changes right now. Of course, this is such a fluid environment. If we have to, we will communicate those to everybody. But for right now, this is how we plan to proceed. And for those of you who are on social media, I did notice the Collegian had forwarded screenshots of the list of courses that we're offering in person. So that's another way to review the options. If you go to their Twitter site, you'll see those there. You're muted, Patty.
One student already apparently looked at his schedule, and he says that he's noticing that he has one class that will be face-to-face, and then within 10 minutes of it ending, the next class will be online. So I imagine some students will encounter that. So how would we advise them?
Well, if that's the case, and Provost, you can help me here, they could find a quiet space on campus since they're going to be here on campus for in-person. The library and other spaces would be open to them to do their online work if they wish to do it that way on campus.
Yeah, that's correct, President Castro. The university as a whole has a lot of space throughout the campus that has Wi-Fi available. So that's one option. The other option, of course, would be the library. Like the president said, the library will be limited in its scope of services this semester. We will be able to provide all services to the students as far as books are concerned, as far as all of the other things on a appointment basis, like we have had done it throughout the spring semester. But if a student needs to use the library for a class and that student is taking face-to-face classes, that student would be able to do that on the first floor. Of course, all of this is within the capacity of the library, right? The library will only be open in the first floor, and we will have limited seating due to the social distancing. But there are other spaces within the campus that have Wi-Fi available to our students.
It's a really good question and point, and I think what we should do is communicate to the campus again about those spaces so that students will know where they're at. I know, for example, the Peace Garden has access, and there are some other parts of campus that do as well. So that's a really great question, and we'll try to provide more information so that you know where you could go, because it may not be, your home may not be 10 minutes away. So that's a practical issue that we'll work together to address.
One of our students is writing, and he is a first responder. And I think his question has to do with leniency around withdrawing from classes this fall. So he's asking if there are any extenuating circumstances in place, such as himself, who's an emergency medical service worker, if students decide to drop their class in order to serve, are they given that option without penalty?
Provost, would you like to answer that?
Sure, yeah. The extenuating circumstances have been in place throughout, and especially now, we are able to assist the students in any of these situations. So absolutely. Again, the Dean of Undergraduate Studies would be able to help with that, or the Dean of Graduate Studies if you're a graduate student along with that.
Great. There's a question around the labs with specialized equipment. Let's see. For those of us using specialized equipment for conducting research, can some of these labs still be open as long as CDC guidelines are followed?
Provost?
Yeah, right now, the Dean of Graduate Studies, Dr. Jim Marshall, he led a group that I charged with repopulating the campus on all things research, dealing with research, scholarly and creative activities. This is a 25-page document that includes everything from the parameters from which the group is working with, dealing with safety, dealing with best practices with learning, et cetera, et cetera. And then it goes through the various levels of the urgency of the research as well. Research that is deemed to be extremely urgent is that research that if it stops, we will lose either animals or we will lose a critical part of the research process that will then push us back significantly or make us completely lose the entire project. So we have that in place. The implementation part of it then comes through a conversation between the chair and the faculty, along with the dean of that college. And then along with that, then both the Dean of Graduate Studies and then in my office, the Vice Provost will then be able to implement a system by which we ensure social distancing, we ensure the safety protocols for cleaning, the safety protocols for handling certain equipment, for assigning specific desks to specific students so that we don't double up workstations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all of this will come to you pretty soon as we finalize this plan.
Great, thank you. There's a note here from Hisham, one of our ASI senators. He says he would like to thank the administration and faculty of our campus for acting swiftly and responsibly during these trying times. And also, students deserve a special thank you for understanding and working with our current campus plan.
It's very nice. I want to thank Hisham too, because he was a very important part of this task force. And as our current students know, he stepped up to be the acting ASI president. So we'll be working with him until there's an election in the fall. So thank you, Hisham, for everything you've done for us. And we look forward to working with you this fall.
That's right. Let's see. There are a few questions from graduate students. Let's see. As graduate students, our thesis depends on our research projects. So I was wondering when we can go back to labs to resume our research. And I apologize. I know we just talked about research, but perhaps from a graduate student perspective.
Yeah, Provost?
Yeah, the same thing would apply. Research for undergrads, research for graduate students will all be dovetailed under the jurisdiction of this document that was produced by the research group led by Dean Marshall. And that specific information will be forthcoming soon. Thank you.
This one is specifically for Dr. Castro. It says, I appreciate your transparency. With that stated, what is the quote unquote new normal looking like from you and your colleagues' perspective?
That's a great question. I appreciate it. I think we still don't quite know what the new normal is going to be, but I have a few guesses. One guess is that it's going to look different than it did in March when we transitioned to virtual education. I anticipate that more of our faculty and students are going to embrace virtual education. It'll be, for some, more flexible, a better way to learn, and it won't require them to drive to campus as often. So I do believe that we're going to see more of that in the future. At the same time, I know that we are craving interaction. So to the extent that you want to be back and have all your courses here, I get that, and that will be an option as well. So we'll have the same high touch in-person instruction that we had for those students and faculty who want that. I've also found on the staff side that much of our work can be done remotely. We've learned that over the last few months, and I believe that we're going to continue to have people working remotely even after we get through this pandemic, that there will be some opportunity for people who want to do that and where it makes sense for the university for that to happen. So those are just a few guesses about what may happen. But you know, this university stood through the last pandemic over 100 years ago, and we're here because they stood strong. And we have a chance to do the same. I know we'll do the same, and we're going to be stronger than ever when we come out of this pandemic, and our rise will continue. Our new class appears to be larger than any class in history, and we're excited to welcome our newest Bulldogs.
Thank you. The next question has to do with clubs and organizations. Since most classes will be virtual, how does this affect student clubs that build projects throughout the semester for annual competitions?
It's a great question. Dr. Kuhn, are you able to answer that, or do you want to ask another colleague?
I can take a chance at it, and maybe somebody else can help. Could you repeat it? I'm not quite sure I understood what they were trying to get at.
Sure. So some clubs and organizations build projects for competitions, whether once a semester or once a year. And so they're asking, how would that work in this virtual environment?
Well, I wouldn't expect that to change. I mean, especially if it's related to one of their courses, that they would just continue to work with their faculty, and our student involvement and all of our other staff would also be there to help them as they have in the past. Does that help?
I think so.
I know there might be some cases in engineering,
Right.
Provost, where that came up this spring. You might want to address that as well.
Yeah, so for specific classes that are working with projects, we are limiting the number of students who will be on campus. And for some projects in engineering specifically, we could not have the students on campus. Just because having the students on campus implies having someone there to continuously monitor and to continuously help the students with the various tools that they use on the one hand. And on the other hand, these activities imply that the students have to be in very close proximity to each other. And of course, that does not allow for social distancing. So some projects that are related to the classes will not be implemented in the fall, just like they were stopped in the spring 2020 semester.
Great. Well, an hour certainly flies by with so many questions coming in from around the state and around the world. Before Dr. Castro delivers a few final remarks, I just want to remind everyone that we do have a lot of information for students on the Fresno State website, and then specifically on the webpage that's now called the Fall 2020 webpage, so I encourage you to see that. And Dr. Castro, would you like to have any final remarks for our students, both the returning students and the new students?
Sure. Thank you again, Patty, and to all my colleagues for helping me to answer questions today. And thanks to all of you for joining us. I've really enjoyed these opportunities to engage with you, and I promise we'll continue them through the summer and the fall as well. So please stay in touch with us. This is such an important time to get your education, and I hope that you'll stay focused on that. And if there's anything we can do to be supportive, please let us know. And I would say the same to any family members out there. If you have any particular questions or concerns, please ask us and we'll get you the answers as much as we can. Please look at the website for fall 2020 because there will be the question and answer section, and that may answer some of the questions that may have not come up today, or if you missed part of the webinar, I just encourage you to take a look there. Thank you again for being part of the Bulldog family. I did something special. I invited my Bulldog friend here to join me behind here. So just as a reminder of what it is to be a Bulldog. So thanks again, everybody, and have a great day and a great weekend.